What's up, guys? So let's talk about the 16 Pro Max versus the S25 Ultra. Which phone is best for you? I've had both these phones since the launch date, and yeah, so it's been a minute, and I've been getting requests about this. Can we go over both phones? And yeah, so I did the full speed test, but I never did the full comparison. So I have a lot of time with these phones now. So hardware-wise, I've kept a case on both of these phones. So the hardware still looks pretty great. They pretty much look, brand new. I don't have any major scratches or scuffs, but I haven't kept a screen protector on these phones. So I do have like one scratch on the iPhone, but that's pretty much it. I don't have any scratches on the S25 Ultra. But hardware wise, I think design wise, they both look pretty good. The camera ring hasn't really grown on me, the thicker camera ring on the S25 Ultra. Just the way it looks hasn't really grown on me. I do like that they have now made it not, so boxy, so it feels a lot more comfortable in the hand. And yeah, so overall they both have that titanium design. The S25 is also a little bit lighter as well too, so it does come in at around 218 grams versus the iPhone's 227, so you can kind of feel the difference a little bit. As far as the kind of like little hardware features here, the 16 Pro Max has this camera control button, and I just never use it. Like I legit forget it's here. It's something that if you like use the camera a lot, you might find it useful. It also doubles as a, let me turn the brightness up. It doubles as a Apple Intelligence kind of feature. So if I take a picture of the S25, search for it. So basically it's like circle to search, right? It basically does the circle to search thing that we've had on Android for a long time. So I rarely use it for the camera control thing, but it can be useful if you're trying to identify something. Now the S25 here, it kind of has a downgraded S Pen, so it's not Bluetooth anymore. I really don't like the way how light it feels, and it's still very accurate in terms of, if you're somebody who wanted to do digital artwork, still very accurate in that regard. But yeah, you can't take pictures and videos from a distance, so if you are a content creator or something like that and you were using this to film, this does have a very good camera, so it's unfortunate, but yeah, you can't skip songs with it anymore, so it's kind of been downgraded in that regard, and it's just something I really don't understand. Both phones have that titanium build, so it's the titanium, like I said, it's been holding up pretty well, but like I said, I put a case on it for the most part, so I don't have any scratches or anything on these phones, but they're both IP68 dust and water resistant, and I think hardware wise, both very nice devices here. Both phones have very nice displays, and I would say that the S25 Ultra is personally my favorite display. It just looks better in my opinion. I don't like the kind of dynamic island that Apple has. I think it looks a little bit dated, and I really think they should just get rid of it, make the punch hole, just put a tiny punch hole like on the S25, and then just get rid of Face ID completely and bring back Touch ID. That's what I think, and put it in the power button. But as far as displays, I mean, the bezels are ridiculously thin on both of these phones here. It's just crazy thin. And the colors look pretty good on both. The S25 has a more kind of like vivid color profile, so the colors kind of pop more. I do have a vividness slider all the way up though, but if you turn vividness slider like all the way down, it kind of looks somewhat on par with the iPhone. So I'm assuming that this is probably the more natural look, but I like that more vivid look. And as far as the specs go, you have the dynamic LTPO display on the S25 Ultra. It's 120 Hz. It is HDR10 plus 2600 nits. These are massive phones. They're both 6.9 inch displays, and it's a 1440p display, 498. And then what Samsung has done, that they've been doing, is it has this anti-reflection coating on here, so you can see the light is aggressively hitting the iPhone, and it's not hitting it as much. So even if we come over here, you guys can see. So it's something that you really notice outdoors, and it's just a very nice, feature to have, especially for people who are really into displays. I think it's very cool. And yeah, I do like the display a lot more. We have this Gorilla Glass Armor 2 on here, which is really nice. I haven't had any major scratches or scuffs with this phone really. And the iPhone has very good specs as well too. LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED, 120 Hz as well, 2000 nits peak brightness, and again a 1320 by 2868 resolution, and 460 for the PPI. We have the ceramic shield glass. And yeah, both displays look great. Like I said, I like the S25's display a lot more. It's got the anti-reflection coating. It's brighter, and then also, I just like the punch hole, being smaller. Comes to overall power and performance here. We're getting very good performance out of both of these phones. It's not like one is better than the other. You're getting really good performance when it comes to basically anything you throw at these two phones. I'm talking about just your general app loading is really good on both of these phones, guys. Coming in and out of applications, multitasking is really fast on these phones. So, on the iPhone we have the Apple A18 Pro chipset, 256 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM. Like I said, I already did that full speed test, but they're both very fast. I mean, they both feel virtually similar for the most part. It's kind of hard to take advantage of the processors in these phones to the fullest extent. And we have 256 gigs, 8 gigs of RAM on the S25 here. We have the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. This is 256 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. And right now I'm running the beta on both of these phones. So One UI 8 beta and the iOS 26 beta here. And it's running, pretty decently. I think the iOS 26 is a little bit rougher. I think just strictly because they're doing such a big revamp with the OS changing how everything looks. So animations have been very choppy and very rough. One UI 8 beta has been pretty solid, but it's not a big overhaul. So that's my assumption anyway. But if Apple releases this and I'm assuming it's not coming out to maybe September or something like that. Anyway, so hopefully they clean this up because it has a lot of animation, a lot of bug problems. But yeah, so overall I do like the overall speed of both of these phones. Like I said, they're both really fast, guys. So whatever you're doing, gaming, emulation, just general performance. And you can see it's just kind of slow on the iPhone a little bit with this this beta update. And again, which is fine, it is a beta update, right? But before iOS 26, this thing's running perfectly smooth, very smooth animations and stuff like that. And like I said, guys, gaming performance, PUBG, Call of Duty, you running emulators, video editing, doesn't matter. They're going to perform really well. As far as heating and stuff like that, I don't really experience any heating problems with either of these phones. I've never had them crash or do anything like that. Even if you're coming in here doing some gaming, both phones have stayed pretty cool for the most part. Like I said, you really won't run into performance issues with these two phones. So yeah, so if you are a heavy user, you don't have to worry about anything. And they're both expensive phones. So I expect these phones to be able to do this, right? So I think performance wise, these phones are very they're very similar. If you look at my scores here, if you guys are curious, I think this was the best score. Geekbench can kind of throw out kind of crazy scores, but you guys can see very similar in scores with the S25, even coming out ahead a little bit here when it comes to the multi-core score. I do want to touch on the overall software and the AI stuff. I'm personally not a big fan of the AI stuff. I think the only thing I might use is the circle to search. It's just not something I realistically use in real life, so I just never use it, unfortunately, and that's on iOS 2. I do think that the Gemini is a lot better than Apple's intelligence thing, which if you just go online and look up the Apple Intelligence is not really what they were advertising it to be for the most part. So I think that if you are into AI, I would put my bet on, the Galaxy AI stuff is functioning a lot better than Apple Intelligence right now. And just all the videos I've been looking at, if you just go, it's just not as what Apple was advertising it to be. And yeah, it's just something I noticed. Again, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't find the AI stuff to be useful at all for me personally. But yeah, and also there is a lot of things. So anytime I switch between these two phones, one of the things that iOS lacks is the split screen multitasking is not here for some reason. I'm not really sure why Apple is not bringing the split screen multitasking to the iPhones. It is very strange because it is a very useful thing if you need to bring up a calculator, be in the browser or whatever. You just can't do that on the iPhone. The closest thing you have is like how they do the dynamic island thing. So this is kind of like your multitask switcher kind of. Again, it's nowhere near as advanced as what Samsung is doing, and we also have that pop-up multitasking as well too. So the multitasking can get really advanced on the S25 or just One UI in general. So it's something that every time you switch between these two phones, this is something that you really miss, is that multitasking experience. Speakers, max volume. Beautiful. So this is what you call flagship quality speakers on both of these phones. I mean, just awesome quality, great balance with the sound, very nice, crisp, clear sound quality. So I want to say that the iPhone does sound like the bass is a little bit louder, but I think the clarity of the S25 Ultra to me is a little bit better. So it just depends on the sound profile you like. Like I said, this is just out of the box, no tweaking or anything like that. The sound sounds great on both. First off, if you like more kind of like that cleaner sound, I think to me the S25 sounds a little cleaner. The iPhone sounds a little bit louder. But you guys remember, louder doesn't always mean better, right? Because the S25 is loud too. Yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on both. You can't really go wrong with the speakers on these two phones because, like I said, they both sound pretty good. And as far as the vibrations, they all also are very good on both of these phones too. Now, one thing that I prefer on just Android devices in general, I really like the fingerprint scanner. My personal favorite would be like the physical fingerprint scanners that are in the button, but this is great. You can use Face Unlock as well on the S25. With the iPhone, you're only limited to the Face Unlock, which is fine. It does work. It's not really a big deal. But I would like to have that too, methods of getting into your phone. Like, I really think Apple could bring Touch ID back to the iPhone, or an under the display fingerprint sensor. But like I said, Touch ID would be great if they could bring that back. All right, so using these two phones, I'm gonna tell you guys the specs and just the things that I personally like about both phones and the cameras here. So with the iPhone, it's a 48 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel periscope telephoto, and then you also do have 5 times optical zoom. It's got a 48 megapixel ultra wide. It's got 4K 24 through 120 frame video, and then you have a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 24 through 60. Now on the S22, not the S22, the S25, you do have the 200 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3 times optical, and then we have a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto. That is actually 5 times now. It used to be 10 times, but we have a 50 megapixel ultra wide It can shoot an 8K 24, and you also have that 4K, 30 through 120 frames on the S25. And it's a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. Obviously, the things that I like about both cameras, the S25 has better zoom. If you're zooming in, you can get pretty far. You can go all the way up to 100 times zoom. It's something that, can come in handy if you're at a sporting event or something like that. It's pretty cool to take advantage of, a concert or something like that. It's a very cool thing to have. The iPhone, the zoom can only go up to 30 times, but the zoom is not terrible on the iPhone, the 30 times. But what I like is, I do like the pictures more on the S25 Ultra, and I do actually like the video a lot more on the 16 Pro Max. I think if you're like a content creator or something like that, I've always said these iPhones have really natural looking video, really good dynamic range. It just looks very natural, very, that's what I like about iPhone video. Now, I've been using my S25 Ultra, and I've gotten, a lot of compliments in my YouTube shorts about the video. So the video is solid on here too, but I just like the way, the iPhone video looks for me personally. But you guys can check out the side-by-side stills video. Let me know what you guys think. Both phones have all-day battery life, which is nice. And guys, it's super important that you go ahead and go into settings and change your battery charging to 80%. So you have this option on both the iPhone. You just go in the battery and you'll see maximum protection. You'll see that little slider. Same thing on the iPhone. Put that to 80%. You will have great battery life, and it'll remain like that. And it won't degrade the battery health of the phone. It's just a tip, and you'll have great battery life. The processors in these phones are excellent. They do a great job with standby time. Screen on time is excellent. You can easily get through a day. I never go out with these phones and think that I'm gonna run out of battery life. So the battery life is very good on both. Can't really go wrong. As far as the battery specs go, the iPhone with the slightly smaller battery, it's a 4,685 milliamp, 25 watt charging on here when it comes to the MagSafe. And then we also have wireless charging, and we have reverse wired charging on here. The S25 has the 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 45 watts, and wireless charging 15 watts, reverse wireless charging. It is Qi 2 as well, so you can use the little MagSafe ring on the S25, which is cool. But as far as the battery life experience goes, like I said, they're both pretty good, so it's not a big deal. I love both phones. I think they both offer, they both do things pretty well. So which phone do you guys like more? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.